Hello! So today I'm going to show you how you can easily launch your Steam games or your PC games that you might have installed in GameHub Lite or GameHub or GameNative directly from your front end using a little tool called the Steam Shortcut Generator. So this was developed by Navivani, who is one of the developers for Cocoon, and she's done an excellent job with this app. It's only a simple little app, but it will save you a ton of hassle rather than manually creating your own files. So you can go to the GitHub. I will post a link below and download it the same you would any other app from GitHub. Tap the app, download the APK. I'm not going to do it because I've already done it. And then install it. So I've got that right here. I'm going to open it up. So first thing we're going to do is head over to settings. What we need to do is if you use the ESDE folder structure or your ROMs folder, is you need to create some folders. So what I've done in preparation for this is in my ROMs folder, I have a folder called Steam somewhere. I have a folder called Steam and I have a folder called PC somewhere. PC. So PC is where I'll be putting shortcuts for my installed games that aren't Steam, and Steam will be my Steam shortcuts. So we'll go back to that. So the first thing I'm going to do is set those folders. So for my Steam shortcuts folder, I'm going to find my Steam folder and I'm going to select it. You can point these at any folder you like. It's entirely up to you. For my local shortcuts folder, I'm going to use the PC folder. There it is. Okay. So there is a bit of a caveat with this. If you're using Cocoon and possibly some other front ends, you'll have to test them out. You'll need to make sure that the shortcut type is set to Steam App ID. For ESU and ESDE and potentially others, you need to change it to Steam, otherwise it won't work the way it reads the files, it just doesn't compute. So first I'll start with Cocoon, so I'll do a Steam App ID. So all I need to do is I'm going to go to the Add Steam games. So the two games I've got installed currently are Megabonk and Mugenics, which I've just bought and I've yet to play. I've heard it runs great on the Thor. So I'm going to search for Megabonk. And there we are. I'm going to tap it. I'm going to generate the shortcut. So what that's going to do is it's going to create a little file and dump it into the Steam folder. I'm going to do the same with Mugenics. There we are. I'm going to do the exact same for that. So if I head over to my Steam folder, you'll see I've got these two files in there, .steam app IDs. So if you open these up, this is what you'll see. There's a little comment at the top about Daijishu player template. So I imagine that if you use Daijishu, this should work as well. And we can see there the Steam app ID, and then it's got the app ID. So that's all they are, is just little text files just to help direct the front end to the necessary game you've got installed. So if I open up Cocoon, and if I go, so I've already set up a Steam folder here. So if you're not sure how to set up an additional folder in Cocoon, you go to a blank space, go to settings, we'll go to library and data, we'll scroll down. If you've got Steam there already, great. If not, you can add a new platform, and then all you need to do is find Steam somewhere. There we go. Find Steam, and then enable it, and then you can go in and you can set your. Let me do it. This is the this is the release candidate for 2.0. So there we go. There is still some bugs. So in here you can set your emulator. I'm using GameHub Lite, and then set your ROMs folder, which in my case is my Steam folder. So what I'm going to do now is you'll see it's currently empty, even though I have those two files in there. So I'm going to go to my settings menu. I'm going to go to I'm going to rescan all my libraries, and this will just nip through, and then any games I've removed or added, it will add them or remove them. So we'll give this a moment. I'll come back in a second and we will see what it's done. Okay, so there we are. So it's added 2 new games to my library, which should be the 2 that I've added. So if I go into my Steam folder, we'll see there they are. I've got a shortcut for Megabonk and a shortcut for Mugenics. So you can't really tell what they are. So the good thing with this is we can scrape them the same we would any other retro console. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my settings. I'm going to go to scrape, my library and data. And where it says scrape scope, I'm going to pick selected platform. And then I'm just going to scroll down and pick Steam. So we'll give that a second. Shouldn't take too long. There's only 2 games. There we go. So if I head back to the Steam folder, there we go. We've got the Megabonk artwork and the Mugenics artwork. And if I just flip over to my desktop, you'll see the full artworks there. Now if I go back to the full screen, if I open one of these, this should take me straight to GameHub Lite and then open up, in this case, Megabonk. So we'll just double check that this definitely loads. The first time I did this, it did give me an application error. However, it only happened once and I did try a few times. So I don't know if that was just a one-off, but if it happens, give it another try. Seems to iron out the kinks in the system. So there we go, it's booted me straight into Megabonk, nice and easy. So now, what happens if I switch over to ISU and I try and boot the games using those shortcuts? So I'll load up ISU, and then I'll flip back to the dual screen for this, okay? So I've got my ISU installation. I'm gonna go to my Steam folder, which is empty. So I'm just gonna refresh the metadata of Steam, and then hopefully it should pull them through. Or not, because they're not in the correct format. So what you can do, if you're like me and you make videos testing different front ends and you've got them all installed at once, if you go back to your Steam shortcut generator and you go to where is it? I can't press things today. Go to settings, and we're going to change the Steam app ID to just Steam. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete the shortcuts that are there, and I'm going to add them again. So I'll search for Megabonk, generate that shortcut, and then I'll search for Mugenics. Which I have to say, as a pun title, 10 out of 10. Well done, Edmund. So now if I go back to ISU and then if I go into my Steam folder, it's refreshed and the 2 games are there. I won't scrape these because I've already scraped them on the other side, but if I load it up, so for some reason in ISU it won't automatically boot into the game, which is a little bit annoying. But it takes you straight there, so you can just press the A button as well. And the same, if I do the same for Mugenics, it'll take me there. It's one extra press. It's not the end of the world. I believe this is something that will be fixed. This is an ISU communication problem. So now I will just show you in ESDE. So again, if you've generated shortcuts, you'll need to fully close ESDE and then reload. So we go across to Steam. Got Megabonk and Mugenics there. If I load them up, there we go. So it's only ISU that you have to have that extra button press. Not the end of the world, but not perfect. We'll get to perfect. Perfect takes time. So I'll just bend that off for now. So what if you've got a non-Steam game? So for example, if I go to GameHub Lite, I've been using Tony Hawk's ReTHAWED, which is an American Wasteland mod. If you're a fan of the Tony Hawk's PS2 era of games, check out ReTHAWED. It's awesome. I'll post a link to ReTHAWED in the description below because it's well worth it. So for this, we're going to need the local app ID. So we're going to view details, and you'll see at the top here, hopefully you can see it on the screen, there's this local game ID at the top. So I'm just going to tap copy, and I'll copy it to my clipboard. And then I'm going to go back over to my Steam shortcut generator. However, rather than go to Steam games, I'm going to go to this PC games bit. So the name of the game is ReTHAWED. And then the ID is that one there. And we'll create a shortcut. So that should have dropped it into my PC folder. Oop. So if I just go to my PC folder, there it is in there, local game ID. And if I open it up, you should see, yeah, it's using the player template, but rather than the Steam ID, it's using the local game ID. So I'll go back to Cocoon in this instance. I'll have to add PC as a system. So I'll go to library and data, I'll press Y to add a new system. Find PC, press Y, and then I'm going to go all the way down and find it again. It should by default, so it's defaulted to win layer, which I don't want. GameHub Lite local games, and then for my ROMs folder, I'm going to point it at my PC folder. There it is. And then we'll allow, and then that's done. So I'm just going to, hopefully, as it, looking for a PC looking icon. I think I'll have to rescan, that's probably why. So I will just rescan all my libraries. I'll be back in a second. Okay, so there we are. So now I have a little Windows folder with my game in there. So I'm just going to open that up, and then hopefully it will launch ReTHAWED. So it's I can see the logo, so it has mapped it to the right ID. And then please don't let me down, because this was working the other day. So I have found with some of the Windows games I've tried that they can take a moment. I will be doing a full guide on installing non-PC games shortly as well, so look out for that. Doesn't normally take this long, so I'm slightly concerned. There we go, it's loaded. Oh, my heart was going then. So yeah, that's just a little video on setting up those Steam shortcuts to be accessed through your front ends. Like I said, if you don't use either ESU, Cocoon, or ESDE, you're using something like Digistio or ReTHAWED or any of the others, then do give it a try. If you find that the .steam file doesn't work, try the .steam app ID. As always, all the links will be in the description. If this video helped you out, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Tell your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.